What's going on YouTube? It's Deej back again with another video, and today we're reacting to Mel Kiper Jr.'s latest mock draft. Of course, this is coming to you a little bit late. You probably watched some other reactions, but I want to get my mock out over the weekend, so this got pushed back to Monday. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the NFL Combine. Man, it was a show. I'm excited to talk about it throughout the rest of this week and, of course, throughout the rest of draft season. But today, like I said, we're talking about Mel Kiper Jr.'s latest 2023 mock. So, like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, and comment your thoughts on Mel's latest mock. Tell me your favorite team and if you're excited about the pick or not. And of course, this was made, I think, before the Jalen Carter news broke, so that will also be something that maybe changes a little bit with his next mock. And then additionally, the Combine's going to change a ton of these guys, projections. So let's go ahead and kick things off with a trade at number 1. Houston moves up and takes Bryce Young. This would be the move I'd love to see Houston make. They might be able to stick and pick in 2 and get him. I mean, it comes down to how hot that number 1 overall pick is right now, especially with the Jalen Carter dilemma. It changes the perception of what maybe Chicago's looking for. Instead of staying inside the top 4 so they can get a Carter, get a Will Anderson, maybe they're more comfortable moving back to 9. And maybe that means, maybe that raises the value of the number 1 overall pick, because now Carolina is that much more alive. Or maybe Houston, I don't know. Maybe this is something I could explore in a future mock. Maybe they move up from 12 and make it happen. Or, maybe a team from outside the top 10 is willing to sell the entire farm to be able to move up to 1. So interesting to see how that plays out. But hey, if you're the Texans, you move up to 1 and get Bryce Young. This is the pick I would love to see. And hey, if you didn't win week 18, I think this is the pick you'd make, because you'd be picking 1. So love to see it make it happen. Let me get to 2. Oh, another trade. Okay, I've had a lot of Bears fans want me to do something just like this, and maybe I will, but this will make a lot of Chicago fans happy in the comment section. So let me hear you rejoice down below. Now it's the Colts moving up to 2. They get CJ Stroud. This is cool. This is a cool idea, because you're basically boxing out Carolina, or the Raiders for that matter, from being able to move up and get you your guy. So I could see a world where the Colts have CJ Stroud as their top quarterback on the board, or maybe the next guy up with a similar grade as Bryce Young, who weighed in at just over 200 pounds. I promise you he does not play at that. So that weight is still going to be something that probably lingers with teams. But CJ Stroud, this big, tall guy, strong arm, to me, the most accurate passer in the class. Enough mobility, and you look back to that Georgia game, that was really the first time we saw him be a creator, handle himself really well against pressure, be able to create outside the pocket. And what a game to end your college career on. I think the game that most bolstered his draft stock. So definitely ended on a high note, and I can see him positioning himself as the number 2 pick, and maybe the same grade on the Colts board as Bryce Young, maybe even higher. Then we get to the Cardinals at 3. Will Anderson. This becomes a slam dunk, no-brainer, especially given what we know about Jalen Carter right now and his stock falling. So yeah, this would be an awesome pick here for the Cardinals. It would give Jonathan Gannon a cornerstone blue chip piece to kind of build that defense around. So that's an A+ from me. And then we get to the Bears. Jalen Carter. I still don't think this is impossible. I could still see him going top 4, and it's really interesting to get to Seattle at 5 and Detroit at 6 after this. And that's where the question really gets spicy to me, because those are 2 teams looking to win now. Seahawks made the playoffs last year, and the Lions went 9-8, were the first team out, essentially after they beat Green Bay week 18. So do those 2 teams say, hey, well, this guy may have some off-the-field issues, but the talent's there, we need a guy like that, because he's kind of exactly what Seattle could bear to add and what exactly the Lions might be looking to add to. So that's where it gets interesting. But I could also see a world where, hey, Chicago's like, we traded down twice, got a ton of extra capital. Let's take a flyer on a guy and hope that with some time we can help him mature. And hopefully that, this is terrible to say that hopefully it sticks to just 2 misdemeanors, because that's rough in and of itself. So again, a lot to be figured out about Jalen Carter and his situation right now, but he is the guy the Bears are looking to build that defense around. That 3 tech is huge for Matt Eberflus's defense. That's why they made the trade for DeForest Buckner in Indy. And if you can add a Jalen Carter, I think football-wise, it makes an absolute ton of sense. Then we get to 5, and another trade here. So we have Carolina and Seattle trading spots, and Carolina taking Will Levis. I know a lot of Panthers fans have told me they're not crazy about Will Levis. I'd be excited to hear maybe there's some love for Levis down the stretch here, but he's still my quarterback too. I love the quick release, and I love the projection. I love the upside that is there. Yes, he has a pretty low floor, especially compared to CJ Stroud, and you have to be careful when doing player comps, because sometimes you same school scout, and sometimes you're basing it off body type, not really the role they were used in. But another rule I try to follow is if you're going to have a player comp, try to have it be people of the opposite race, just so that way you're really not trying to put people into a specific box. And to me, CJ Stroud is just Jared Goff, and I am looking for more than that in a franchise quarterback, right? I think you can win with Jared Goff if he was on a rookie contract, but I think I want to swing for a bigger fence, or swing for the fences rather. So I'll go for Will Levis in that upside. And also, I think you have to compare, C.J. Stroud was up here with his college situation. Best college offense to be in, awesome talent, one of the best rosters in college football. Then you have Will Levis in Kentucky, not a great offensive line, no skill positions after Wan'Dale Robinson was drafted. And then think about what's going to happen at the NFL level. The situation for Levis is only going to get better, and the situation for Stroud's only going to get worse. So I do think they are on very different points in which you can evaluate them, and I think that context is something you have to take into consideration. I'm still big on Levis. So if the Panthers were to make this pick, pair him up with Frank Reich, I'm excited about the future of Carolina, but I know this will upset a lot of Panthers fans at the same time. Lions say Christian Gonzalez, yeah, he's solidified CB1 for me. And I started to think that, yeah, he's going to light it up at the combine, and I'm not going to be able to say no to that upside. Again, I am very biased to toolsy, traitsy guys. I am swinging with the idea of hitting a home run. Like, that is what I want to do, especially in the top 10. So, yeah, Gonzalez is that guy. I mean, sub 440 at 6'2", those long arms, also 41 plus inch vertical. I mean, yeah, the explosive numbers, the speed, the size, the frame, the arm length. Yeah, he's a freak of nature, no doubt about it. And if he's the first corner off the board, I think he's deserved it because the tape's there, the coverage flexibility. I think he'd be good in man. I think he'd be good in zone, off press. I think he can do just about all of it. So yeah, no doubt to me right now. I think he's my CB1, and the Lions could certainly use that type of guy on the roster. Then we get to the Raiders. Devon Witherspoon. Yeah, I don't know. This one's tricky because I'm starting to maybe teeter with Witherspoon and Joey Porter Jr. again, kind of going for the upside. Joey Porter Jr. 6'2.5", runs that 4.45, 34-inch arms. And there's another corner with 34-inch arms that I am stoked to talk about when we do my post-combine next mocks and maybe some winners and losers and things like that. But nonetheless, Witherspoon is still a really good player. And I think if you were to ask me what guy is most NFL ready like tomorrow, Devon Witherspoon would be my answer. And I think he's best suited in a man press type of defense, which I think Patrick Graham would like to see and use more in his defense. So the fit makes sense. The need makes sense. And I think he'd be a good fit for Patrick Graham. Yeah, I'm just kind of teetering back and forth now between Witherspoon because, he's sub 6 foot and he's right around that 180-pound mark. So it's like, you compare that to 6'2.5" and those 34-inch arms, and, you start to think about what Joey Porter Jr. could be, and take into account that Joey Porter Jr. has gotten better and better year over year at Penn State, and I want to try to ride that progression wave, if you will. So anyways, we'll talk about Joey Porter Jr., I'm sure, at some point in this mock. Will McDonald going 8. Yep, this was the pick that I had kind of spoiled for me. Will McDonald. I like Will McDonald a ton. 6'3", right around that 240-pound mark. I think he's a great speed rusher in this class. I just can't see him going 8. The earliest I think Will McDonald, at least as of right now, that I think he could go is 19 to the Bucs. I could see Tampa Bay kind of selling themselves on Will McDonald, but 8, yeah, I'm not so sure on that. But hey, the need makes sense because Atlanta's looking for a difference maker on the edge. But I think Lucas Van Ness had a really good combine, and I think he would kind of position himself to be the dude here. And there's some other edge guys that I think I would just take ahead of Will McDonald. But hey, man, if you're looking for that speed rusher, it makes sense. The other hesitation I have here is like Will McDonald, 240 pounds. He took Arnold Ebiketie last year, kind of have 2 speed rushers, which isn't the end of the world, but neither one of those guys stopped the run at a high level. So I'd like to see Atlanta try to address the run defense side of it too, and I don't think Will McDonald gives you that, especially not at 8. If you get him at 44, then sure, just take him there. Seahawks take Anthony Richardson. I'd love to see this I'd love to see this come to fruition. And I'm trying to figure out how I can get Seattle some quarterback and mocks, but a lot of Seahawks fans aren't crazy about it, and the reason I'm not doing it as of right now is I just want to see what Geno in that situation plays out to be. Is it just the tag? Is it a 2-year deal structure? Is it 1? Is it a 3-year deal structure? Is it 2? Is it a 4-year deal structure? It could break out in so many different ways that until I have that clarity, I don't really feel comfortable going quarterback when I can address other needs right here, right now. So I do like the idea of franchise quarterback, quarterback of the future for Seattle in this draft, especially if they can trade back and get that guy. That'd be awesome. So in this situation, you move back from 5 to 9. I've had a mock exactly where this has happened. You get the extra draft capital. Anthony Richardson, draft and stash, sit him for a year, and then hopefully he learns from Geno Smith and then becomes a starter year 2. Anthony Richardson's also a guy where I think I'm almost certainly in the minority here, but I think I'm just going to plant my flag on it. I'd want to see him start week 1. I know he's a 1-year starter, and he's probably not as great as some of the other guys, especially Will Levis. That's kind of the point of differentiation between these two project quarterbacks for me. I know Will Levis can run an NFL offense. He played under 2 NFL OCs. Anthony Richardson, only 1-year starter, and I don't know if a whole lot of what he used at Florida is going to translate to the NFL level. That being said, he's only going to learn by getting out there and actually getting the line, learning how to make reads, checks, understand the defense, call it the, all those little things that we don't really talk about in videos like this, but that are drastically a huge part of what it takes to be a good quarterback. That being said, I understand the argument for having him sit, but he just looks like a guy that, to me, hasn't played enough football. So I want to see him play football. Also, you look at Jalen Hurts, not this past year, but the year before that. Philadelphia, being they, leaned into his legs a ton while he was still learning and growing as a passer, and that raised the floor of the offense. And I think Anthony Richardson could do the same thing. So I'd almost just want to see a team embrace his running ability, have a high floor offense, maybe not a whole lot of upside as he's still growing and learning to be a passer. Same sort of thing that happened with Josh Allen, so with the Bills. So I'd love to see that kind of play out. But if he went to Seattle, I think he's probably sitting at least for a year behind Geno. Eagles take Peter Skoronski. Don't hate this pick whatsoever. Some interior offensive line reinforcements, and hey, Howie Roseman's going to address the trenches, whether it's defensive line, offensive line. Both those position groups make sense here at 10. I've seen some, Paris Johnson Jr. Now we've seen Peter Skoronski here. Skoronski's enticing because he can play anywhere 1 through 5. So whether it's guard, center, tackle, you can find a way for him to get on the field. So I like it a little bit more than I like Paris Johnson Jr., despite Paris Johnson Jr. being my number 1 tackle this year. Titans then take Paris Johnson Jr. Yep, this is, won't talk too long on this. This is one I've had in almost every mock. It's been tackle pretty much the whole way through for me in Tennessee. They just got to, replace Taylor Lewan and find a big-time upgrade over Dennis Staley. And I think you can address some of their other needs later on, especially on day 2. Add a speed wide receiver, maybe add a guard, maybe add some edge depth, maybe even adding a corner to the mix too. I think you can do all that on day 2. So love the tackle pick there at 11. Tyree Wilson falls all the way down to 12. And after a good combine, I don't think that's going to happen. Man, I was hyping up like 80-inch arms, and then he comes up with the 86-inch wingspan. And I'm like, dude, what? Oh my God, this guy is a legitimate pterodactyl. So yeah, I'm buying into that, and I think he's going to go top 10, especially with the Carter news too. Like, I think that boost some of these other, high upside type of guys maybe up a little bit. Or if you're going to take a risk, do you want it to be on a guy that you think you can develop and get there, or a guy that you're trying to change their off-field personality, for lack of a better phrase. So Tyree Wilson, I don't think it's going to make it to 12, but if he did, man, this would be an awesome pick here for Houston. Get that edge that, hey, with Jerry Hughes leading the way in pressures, sacks, and hurries, you got to find a guy long-term that's going to be that dude. So I'd love to see them take a guy like Tyreek Wilson here at 12. I just don't think he's going to make it there. Then at 13, Anton Harrison to the Jets. Mel Kiper Jr., you're going to get an A+ on this mock just because you're showing my boy Anton Harrison some love here. My OT3 even over Broderick Jones, who we haven't seen Broderick Jones come off this mock yet. So maybe Mel's thinking the same thing. I just love how polished he is as a pass protector, 3-year starter at Oklahoma, moves really well, pretty explosive athlete, runs well too. So I think he needs to add some strength into his profile, but because he doesn't have, the Broderick Jones kind of identification, he doesn't have that strength in his profile. He's so good in so many other areas, and he's been kind of forced to excel in those other areas. So I'm a big fan of Anton Harrison. I think he's a great pass protector day 1. So no matter what happens with the Jets and their tackle situation, I think Anton Harrison's a great, ready-to-go NFL starter at left tackle. Then we get to the Patriots, Jackson Smith and Jigba. This is an interesting one, and one that kind of makes sense if they lose Jacoby Myers. Could be a volume guy to the slot, good route runner, gets open, soft hands. Sounds like Jacoby Myers in a lot of ways, but JSN, you kind of start over, get a fresh timeline, the new contract, you're not paying, him, 15 plus, like I think Jacoby Myers is going to attract, if not more. I mean, who knows what that Myers market's going to look like. That being said, I kind of like to see them add someone who can play on the outside. I'm not sure JSN can do that. Maybe he can when it's like a 2-receiver set, when you're in that 22 or, something like that. Or 21, 2 receivers, 2 tight ends, and a running back. But nevertheless, I think when you go 3 receivers, he's going to have to kick inside of the slot. But, we'll see. And I know I'm lower on JSN than others, so I'm not trying to dampen the excitement that might come out of you enjoying this pick. In a perfect world, like for me, New England brings back Jacoby Myers and adds a wide receiver. And if they were to bring back Myers, I'm not sure how JSN kind of fits into the mix there, but this would be an awesome Jacoby Myers contingency plan. So I kind of like it from that perspective. Then we get to the Packers at 15. Michael Mayer, yeah, this would be cool. I just don't think it's going to end up happening. Not a great athlete, solid frame, good route runner, good hand. All the same stuff you've heard about Michael Mayer basically throughout the entire draft cycle is true. I just think because of the limited, athletic ability, 15 is even kind of maybe a little rich. He's probably even harder than Bijan Robinson for me to mock, just because Bijan you can at least say is twitched up beyond belief. Michael Mayer, you don't have that argument, you don't have that case. You can't just say, yeah, well he's a great athlete, so we're going to buy into that. So, yeah, 15, I don't really buy it. Green Bay doesn't, draft these pass catchers in the first round. Even with Jordan Love taking over, I don't think it's going to change. They're going to stick to their MO. They're very, kind of closed off to what the public wants. They want to do it their way. So I think that trend continues. So would I like Michael Mayer here at 15? Absolutely. Him, Christian Watson, Romeo Doubs. I think that's a really fun, exciting, young pass-catching core to build around with Jordan Love. But I just don't think it's going to happen. Next up, 16, Washington Commanders take Darnell Wright. Interesting one. So I would assume Mel Kiper Jr. is envisioning Sam Cosmi being a better fit at guard. I'm a big Cosmi believer at tackle, so maybe I'm in the minority there. But Wright could also kick inside the guard. So no matter what, you kind of have that flexibility there on the right side of the offensive line, whether it's Cosmi at guard and Wright at tackle or the other way around. That makes that offensive line better. And for a team that wants to, live through their run game, that makes a lot of sense. And for a team that right now, projected starter Sam Howell, that makes a lot of sense too. So don't hate this pick. It's interesting though, Darnell Wright over Broderick Jones. I don't know if I've ever seen a mock yet this cycle that's had that play out. So very interesting that Mel decided to play it that way. Joey Porter Jr. to the Steelers. Yeah, I honestly think Washington's going to snipe Joey Porter Jr. before Pittsburgh once we get to April. If he's not even off the board before this. But, dude, as a Steelers fan, I would love this because obviously the connection is dad, former Steeler. That's all great. That's all well and good. But because Pittsburgh needs to figure out that cornerback room long term. And I mean, whether it's, being a man press guy, go getting a guy at the line of scrimmage in cover 2, whether it's playing a lane in cover 3, cover 4, I think he can do just about all of it. And dude, 4.46 40, yeah, it's not Christian Gonzalez running 4.3s, but a 4.45, 4.46 at 6'2.5", that's moving in 34-inch wingspan, 34-inch arm length. That is awesome too. So a lot to be excited about with Joey Porter Jr. And again, that upside, considering he's gotten better year over year at Penn State, 3-year starter, like he's still on the younger side as well. Like I want to tap into that potential and that growth that he's had over the last 3 years. And I want to be the team that tries to continue that. So that plus his frame and pretty good athletic ability, I've been saying I think he's going to test pretty well. I think he did at Indy this weekend. So, I would love to see this pick in Pittsburgh. Then we get to 18. Drew Sanders, the Lions. Interesting. I don't think I've had this pick. I don't think I've had the Lions taking linebacker this early. This would create a kind of interesting pairing between him and Malcolm Rodriguez, the smaller, undersized coverage specialist maybe, and then Sanders is kind of playing everything in front of him. Maybe really good athlete, can fly to the running back, can field run lanes. Still think he needs to get better there. Like I still think learning how to play linebacker and stop the run is something where he can get better. But buying into that and trying to be the team that makes that happen is smart thinking. But also using him as a blitzer, I think is kind of fascinating here. So refresh my memory. Where did we go? We went corner at 6, right? Christian Gonzalez. So instead of defensive line, using Drew Sanders as a blitzing component and trying to generate pass rush with his ability to do just that, that's an interesting way of trying to find another avenue of doing just that. So I don't hate it. I don't love it either. And I'm probably a little bit more lukewarm to negative on it, but not the worst idea. And hey, we're playing around with fits. We're playing with player destinations. This is still, early March. We're still having fun here. Tampa Bay, Emmanuel Forbes. Yeah, 166 pounds. I told y'all he was going to be light. And at 6'1", yeah, that dude's a pencil. Which, that being said, he's a pencil that, was a 3-year starter with a ton of ball production. So buy into that. If that's what you're looking for, a corner, a guy who can get his hands on the football and make plays, this is your guy. So it'd be interesting to see what his body kind of turns into at the NFL level. I can't see a team wanting to keep him in the 160s once he's at the NFL level. But I think Tampa Bay needs a corner. I think with post-combine numbers, Julius Brents kind of comes into the picture here. Deontay Banks becomes live here after their combine. So maybe not Forbes is my pick, but pre-combine, I understand where Mel's coming from here. So, when you're going to lose Jamel Dean, Sean Murphy, Bunting, it's certainly an area of need for Tampa Bay. So maybe not the corner I'd go with, but also I'm coming from that with post-combine, numbers in my mind. Myles Murphy falls all the way down to 20. This would be a pretty awesome situation here for Seattle. So you trade back, get your quarterback of the future, and then at 20, you get Myles Murphy, a guy who for a long time has been a top 10 pick. Not doing as much as he did at the combine, or not participating in the combine in general. I think he's probably outside the top 10 now, but still in that 12 to 15 range. Like I think Houston or Green Bay, depending on where the other edge rushers go, make a lot of sense as landing spots. But if he makes it all the way down to 20, I think it's an intriguing prospect. You play him there on the D-line, you're going to get an immediate high-level run stopper, which Seattle could certainly benefit from. But, with a year or two's time, can you teach him how to become a pass rusher? Can you hone in on his potential there? Because if so, he become a really scary player and one of those guys that we look back at the draft and it's like, man, I know he was a project, but how did he go to 20? How did he last that long? So that's kind of the dilemma here. And I think at 20, he's worth taking the risk on. So I'd love to see Seattle have this type of situation play out. Chargers take Jordan Addison. Love this fit a ton. Addison to the Giants, Addison to the Chargers, Addison to the Vikings. Those are all three teams picking the 20s that I would just love to see Jordan Addison end up playing on. But obviously, he's only going to have one team draft him, so we'll have to wait and see. But for the Chargers, get that over-the-top speed element. He's a good deep route runner, great intermediate route runner. So if you lose Keenan Allen, this might be the guy I try to hone in on, right? Zay Flowers makes sense because you get the underneath production plus the deep down the field type of work. But Mike Williams is a possession guy. He's going to work, the sideline, and he's going to win those contested catch situations. Addison being able to be that volume guy, maybe that works the intermediate parts of the field and can be the deep route runner. And then DeAndre Carter, Josh Palmer doing the underneath stuff. That's kind of interesting to me. It also comes down to how they feel about like Josh Palmer, going into year 3. Could he take over and take a step forward as, a guy who plays on the outside? And if they move on from Keenan Allen, does this become Jackson Smith and Jigba if he's on the board? If so, then that becomes an interesting wide receiver room. But then it becomes dependent on Josh Palmer taking a step forward, which I'm not in the room, haven't seen him this offseason, so I don't know. But, Jordan Addison, if they lose Keenan Allen, having that 1-2 punch between Addison and Williams makes me excited if I'm a Chargers fan. Then we get to 22. The Ravens take Zay Flowers. Love this a ton. Good yard after the catch ability. Also, deep route runner, good speed. And, the Ravens, even, assuming Lamar Jackson's under center, even with Todd Monken as the new OC, their identity is going to be the run game. So safety is going to creep up. Defense are going to have to respect the run game. And Zay Flowers has an abundance of speed to be able to beat them over the top. So they kind of lost that element when they traded away Hollywood Brown. But I understand, I don't want to pay Hollywood Brown $20 million a year either. So I get why they made that move. Plus they got a first round pick back. That became Tyler Linderbaum. Good pick, and it's already kind of worked out. So finding that replacement, I think, is paramount here at 22. So corner, wide receiver, both make sense, but I'd like to see them prioritize wide receiver. I think Zay Flowers is a great fit. Vikings take Deonte Banks. Yeah, this is, especially post-combine, 4.35 speed at 6 foot, almost 200 pounds. This guy, 23 might start to become like a little low for Banks. Like, I don't know. 19, I think, is kind of where you start to, have it come into mind, depending on the other cornerback positions. Could Pittsburgh take him at 17? Yeah, this is a guy who showcased his ability and made a lot of money, simply put, at the combine. And good tape too. I think profiles is a really good man coverage corner. And I think Brian Flores could stand to add a guy like that to that defense. I'm still optimistic about Andrew Booth Jr. and Cam Dantzler, but adding one more guy, and especially a guy who feels like a really good fit for that defense, is certainly not going to be anything I knock or scoff at. Jags take Lucas Van Ness. I don't think Van Ness has fallen to 24, but if he did, this would be a slam dunk here for the Jags. Guy you could play, that 3-4 DN spot, maybe able to kick outside to edge too. Iowa had him listed at 290, but him coming in at like 272, I think was the weight measurement. I kind of love that even more, honestly, because I think it gives you more flexibility to be able to move him outside and play him on the edge straight up. But great strength profile to his game. Great get off on the line of scrimmage. That's really enticing. So the Jags adding another pass rusher, I think, could go a long way too. Because Caleb Von Chason, unfortunately, hasn't really worked out. I've been kind of waiting for a few years now for him to take that step forward, and it just has not happened. So a 3 man pass rush. Obviously, other players in the mix here, but headlined by Josh Allen, Travon Walker, and then Lucas Van Ness. I think that could go a long way to bolstering that Jags defense. Giants take Quentin Johnston. Yeah, Quentin Johnston's my wide receiver 1, so I would have had him off the board well before this. And, New England at 14 makes a ton of sense to me. Obviously, that's what I did this past weekend in my mock, so I like that fit a ton. But if he makes it all the way down to the Giants, oh my God, you add the size in which Kenny Golladay was supposed to be, like, he was supposed to be that dude. He was supposed to bring that to this offense. But also great over-the-top speed and kind of some of what you didn't fully take advantage of with a guy like Sterling Shepard or Darius Slayton, namely Darius Slayton. So yeah, I love this a ton because you get the speed, but you also get the size. I think this offense is missing. So this would be a slam dunk. Now, I think to kind of further the point, I'd love to see the Giants get Quentin Johnston and then trade their second for DeAndre Hopkins, because then it's like, boom, let's see what DeAndre Jones is really all about. Let's go win now. Let's give Brian Dable, Mike Kafka some weapons on the outside that could really take us to the next level. Do I think they do that? No. I think if they're going to go wide receiver, it's either going to be D-Hop or it's going to be wide receiver first round. And if they got Quentin Johnson, I'd be super excited about it because, again, he's my wide receiver 1 and the need is glaring. Cowboys take Dalton Kincaid. Yeah, this makes some good sense. It's something I'm planning to explore. Actually, I just did it this past weekend. May do it some more in future mocks too. A guy who's getting a ton of hype right now. So I'm lower on Kincaid, so I'm not trying to be a downer here, but he is a good athlete and a tank to bring down. And I don't think he's a great blocker, but that's not really why you're drafting him. And with the Cowboys losing Dalton Schultz, the need is there. I could see them going in this direction. With Bijan on the board too, though, if they're going to go non-high position value, I think Jerry would opt for Bijan Robinson. Then at 27, Bijan comes up to the board of the Bills. Mel's been doing this pretty much all draft cycle. Bijan's going before 27. I know he's a running back, but Najee went 22, I think was the pick that Steelers took him with. But before 27, and Bijan's going before 27 because he's an even better running back prospect. He's a great receiver on top of that. So he fits more of what you need out of a running back in 2023 than Najee did. And to me, that's why, I say he's the best running back prospect since Adrian Peterson. And Adrian Peterson was kind of the perfect running back for 2007. I think Bijan's kind of the perfect running back for 2023. So I don't think he's on the board. But if the Bills can take advantage of it, I'd love to see that be the pick. Luke Musgrave at 28. So we get 3 tight ends in the first round. A lot of times I end up only getting 1 in, but I could totally see a world where we get 2, maybe even 3 off the board. I have Darnell Washington on tight end too, so I'm kind of bummed he's one of the guys on the outside looking in. But Musgrave, awesome athlete. I think a better blocker and more potential there than what Kincaid brings. So, 6'6", 250, runs really well. I'd like to see that element added into the Bengals offense. And, I've said this plenty of times over when it comes to drafting tight end for Cincy. You're going to have to find a way to replace Tyler Boyd, and, drafting a good tight end here, I think is a good way to replace his production. Him plus, whoever that future slot wide receiver, I think they could combine and be the aggregate to replace Tyler Boyd. So I like that fit a ton. And then we get Darnell Washington going to Saints. So, correction, Darnell Washington not on the outside looking in. He's just the 4th tight end off the board. So, wow, that's pretty impressive. And again, I try to make sure I don't know anything going into these mocks. So you are experiencing my reactions as I am experiencing it. So, Darnell Washington to the Saints, interesting. They haven't had a dominant tight end since, Jimmy Graham. So I'd almost prefer if they could get a Kincaid or a Musgrave because I want to see that receiving ability put into play. But, dude, his blocking ability, him being Darnell Washington, this would make Alvin Kamara beyond happy. Plus, whoever the quarterback is will certainly benefit from that, pass protection as well. Limited route tree, wasn't asked to do a whole lot in the pass game from Georgia, but, Brock Bowers was there, so I would lean into Brock Bowers as well. 6'7", 260, I think he runs well for that size. And I think I don't think he didn't have a huge receiving role because he was inept or incapable of doing it. It's just like he was asked to do it. So I think there's an ability to expand that receiving role on top of what you get as a great blocker. So like that fit, almost prefer one of the other tight ends though for the Saints. Kalijah Kancey going to the Eagles here at 30. He's going before this. Yeah, Kancey breaking the all-time D tackle, 40 time, and kind of coming into a pretty good 280. I was kind of concerned maybe he falls below that 280 mark, so I was like, lighter than that, we're starting to get some concerns about if he can play D tackle. But now when you get that speed, 6 foot 280 is still small for the inside, but I think you can use that. And honestly, he could become a guy that you play a mixed match with across the defensive line. I always thought Jadeveon Clowney was best used in Houston when he was lining up at different edge spots. He was moved inside. In Houston, just kept rotating him around. And I could see Kalijah Kancey kind of being something similar. He's totally a different build than Jadeveon Clowney. So don't take that as my player comp because couldn't be any further from the truth. But nonetheless, he could be a guy that, because he's so explosive and he runs that 4.67, we could play him on the edge. And I kind of talked about this with the Saints last week where I had Kancey going. But also, like, that type of get-off on the interior, I mean, like, guards are not going to be able to get to him. And, like, at the college level, he's at guards before they're able to get out of their stance. Like, his explosive, that first step is... It's some of the best. It might be the best in this class, like right up there with Will Anderson, honestly. So, I think he's going to go before this, especially with that 40 time and testing pretty well elsewhere at Indianapolis. So, 30 would be a great value for Philadelphia. I just don't think Kancey makes it there. And then Broderick Jones finally comes off the board. I guess, OT5? At least OT4, but I think OT5 off the board here in the first round for Mel. And he goes to Chiefs. Makes a ton of sense. And he almost kind of projects better as a right tackle because he is raw as a pass protector. So maybe he gains some experience playing right tackle, then be able to flip over the other side. And this kind of gives you an immediate upgrade over Andrew Wiley and Luke Niang, who unfortunately just has not worked out. I think they'll end up franchise tagging Orlando Brown Jr. But if they don't, Broderick Jones could also just be the left tackle of the future, and then we'll figure out what they're going to do at right tackle throughout the rest of the offseason. Don't hate the pick. But for a team that's going to pass the ball a lot, Broderick Jones, his weakness makes me a little nervous about his fit in Kansas City. But that is going to do it for my reaction to Mel Kiper Jr.'s latest 2023 NFL mock draft. Scroll back through so you can see all the picks one more time. I'll give Mel, there's some picks in here that I really, really like. And obviously, with combine numbers in my head, like Kancey falling to 30, that's not going to happen anymore. But when Mel released this, he had no way of knowing that. So I'll give Mel a pretty good grade here. Let's go 90 flat. I'll give him a good A-. So let me know what you would grade Mel Kiper Jr.'s mock down below in the comment section, whether it's the grade for your favorite team or the mock entirely. You want to give him a letter grade, number grade, however you want to do it. Love to hear your thoughts and feedback down below in the comment section. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Be sure to hit that like button if you did. Subscribe if you're new and want more draft content. We're getting that much closer to April 28th with the first round getting underway for this 2023 NFL draft. Once again, hopefully you guys enjoyed. And until next time, my name is Tej, and I'm signing off.